So, day 4. How's everyone doing? Everyone feeling good? Healthy? Hope you're all doing well out there. Things are okay here, not too bad. Hi, Laurie, Christoph, and Lai, and Mikhail. So, what I've done today, so we're still on the strengths splurge, which is one of my favourites, because it makes things easier. And hello, Alex. There we go. What's going on here? Okay. Hello, Kling and Blair and Scott. That's it, Scott. Robert and Pete. So I can't remember everyone's real names when they've got different thingies. What do you call them? All right, let's start there. Right, so let's first ask you a question. So who has had trouble finding the motivation to actually sit down to write at all? Is there anyone who's watching right now who's found it difficult to actually keep sitting down to splurge each day? Hello, audio diggers. Good morning. Or yes, it's 5 o'clock in the morning here. Hi, Mike. Hi, Phil. Has anyone found it difficult, or had any so far had any problems with just actually sitting down to splurge at all, with the motivation to do that? And while you're answering that question, I'm just going to okay, great. Scott looks forward to it. Hello, Louis. No problems from audio diggers. Bart, yes, today. Okay, so there really can be only, well, actually, there's probably, with this weather here, that's interesting. Why is the weather having an impact on your wanting to splurge, Christoph? That's interesting. Yeah, I don't. I'm just trying to think. In my experience, does the weather change my motivation? Well, not actually consciously. Is it because it's really nice outside and you'd rather be outside or something? Is that what it is? Or is it because it's depressing and okay, so it's nice weather? Yeah. Okay, so I mean, the thing to do in that situation is, if it's nice outside and you want to be outside, take your laptop with some headphones outside and do it. Or maybe do something on your phone. Yeah, I mean, I guess maybe it's because I live in Australia, so it's quite often sunny, so you kind of get used to it. So yeah, I forgot what it's like. Yeah, I mean, I think the main point about finding it difficult, finding it difficult to find the motivation, and it is important to go outside, right? But obviously, if you can, if you're allowed to, that is. But I think the main point about splurging, about sitting down to write it, or sitting down to splurge, is that the splurge is actually lowering the bar, and you can actually do a splurge in 10 minutes. That's perfectly possible. Obviously, I'm doing long live streams at the moment, just in order to answer your questions and help you actually understand better what a splurge is. And the way it's turning out at the moment is that I'm actually doing less splurging myself. But if I'm doing it on my own, you can do it really, really quickly. Okay. So that's the first thing. Just lower the amount of time that you're telling yourself you have to splurge. One of the things I've noticed is that people don't do what they can because they're not doing the perfect thing. they're not getting good because they're not perfect, right? They're stopping themselves doing anything because they're, oh, I'm not doing 4 hours a day. I heard, I won't mention who it is, but I heard somebody who's a kind of well-known music production coach say, unless you've got a 4-hour stretch of time, to forget about making music. And I was like, okay, I really respect you. I really think you're doing great things. But that right there is one of the worst pieces of advice I've ever heard. Like, oh my goodness. If I had to have a 4-hour stretch of time before I made music, I would literally not have made a single piece of music in the last 18 months. Not one. I mean, I have worked for an hour and a half at a stretch of the time, but I wouldn't have got to the point of doing that unless I'd lowered the bar. Okay. So if you're ever struggling to sit down to write, instead of focusing on, right, I need to do 10 splurges today, go, okay, all I'm going to focus on. No, in fact, how about this? All right, how about here's the cure. Maybe that's slightly overstating it. I don't want to overstate it. I don't want to overhype it here, but I'm going to do it anyway. Here's the cure for a lack of motivation. Okay. Say to yourself, all I need to do is go to whatever your equipment is, whether you've got a computer or like hardware or whatever. All I need to do is turn it on and sit there, or stand there in my case, for 2 minutes. Okay, that's all I need to do. Okay, and I could almost guarantee, again, it's a cure that works in about 80% of cases. But this medication can, just to cover all bases, cause vomiting, headaches, and all of those other things that every single medication can cause. But literally, tell yourself, let's make it 5 minutes. Let's make it a stronger dose, all right? All you have to do is turn on your music making equipment and sit there for 5 minutes. You don't have to do anything else, okay? And I am almost sure that in the majority of cases, that is going to remove the need for motivation. You see, motivation, people think that motivation it's kind of like a thing that needs to always be there. And if it isn't there, what's wrong with me? Why haven't I got the motivation? What's wrong? Like, that must mean something. Oh, no. Motivation is this tiny little thing that comes and goes up and down, and sometimes it can turn into a fire, but it's a little spark. Yeah. And what actually creates the fire, yes, there needs to be a tiny little spark. So that's what we're talking about, sitting down in front of, turn on the stuff and sit there for 5 minutes. Okay, that just requires a tiny little spark. What makes that spark turn into the fire is actually the more important part of motivation, which is action. Okay, so just taking that action and sitting there, you're like, well, I suppose I might as well do something now, right? And then you doing something leads to something else, leads to something else, leads to something else, leads to something else. Yeah. So that is how to overcome that. Not sitting down to write. It is a mistake to be thinking, well, it's not worth me sitting. Doing a 10-minute split. It's not worth it. I'm not going to get anywhere. I can tell you what, you're going to get further than if you don't do it. You're going to get further in 10 minutes than not doing it at all. Okay, because it kind of builds up over time. Yeah, and inspiration, for what it's worth, inspiration will show up when you start showing up daily. Okay, so. What I did just before this was I just did a quick defam twiddle in order to start us off, because I thought, well, maybe they don't want to hear me just twiddling around on the defam for hours. So this is my little patch. I think I'm going to record that. Okay. So does anybody have any questions while I'm doing this? Oh, what's your biggest, what have you found is the biggest challenge so far with splurging? Yes, I will show you what I do when I don't have the DFAM. That's in day 9 and 10, I think. So, a couple of questions. There we go. So, I think it's Gerald. Is that your name? Kling is asking what do you do to program drums when you don't have the DFAM, and can you show us? I only got the DFAM. It was Santa who bought me the DFAM. So I asked Santa and he said, well, Michael, if you are a very good boy, then I may consider getting you a DFAM. And as it turns out, okay, Gerald, brilliant. So as it turns out, I must have been a very good boy because I got one. So I've only had it since Christmas. So yeah, I do. I mean, I wouldn't even really call necessarily what the DFAM does exactly drums. I mean, it kind of is, but it kind of isn't as well. It does all kind, it's sort of it's an amazing, it's like the way they've designed it, and its limitations are just absolutely brilliant. People complain about there only being 8 steps and all that kind of thing, but with these holes on the side, then you've got basically, I mean, the problem isn't, the problem isn't that it can't do enough things. The problem is that it's endless. so when you bring these holes, and at the moment what I've got is, because this is a Mother 32, and I'm not using the Mother 32 for anything at this point other than just splitting a signal and going back into that, which then affects this noise. But anyway, so because this half is, if you don't know, this half is a Mother 32, Mother 32, and this half is the DFAM. Okay. So yeah, so it's kind of fairly new to me, this thing. So yes, I do use drums. What I have decided on in my own sort of template, the things that I'm using, I'm just very, very simple. I use the Roland Cloud 808 and the Roland Cloud 909. Now I used to have an actual 909, but when I stopped making music, I sold all of my equipment. Stopped making music in like 2010, and did I get rid of my 909 straight away? I can't remember. Anyway, I got rid of it around then. But yeah, so now then I saw when Roland had all of their synths and drum machines, well, not all of them, but lots of them as VSTs. I instantly subscribed to Roland Cloud. So I just keep it really simple, and I either use a 909 or an 808. And in days 9 and 10, which are actually, unfortunately, at a different time, unfortunately, because I've got coaching sessions at that time, but the live streams are. On days 9 and 10, I'm not using the DFAM for various different reasons, which you will find out then at all. So I will be programming drums at that point. So yeah, I mean, I do. Well, and I don't really program drums more than I tend to play them. And I mean, I think, you know, if you don't know how to play the piano, absolutely fine, or the keyboard, don't worry about it. I would still recommend starting to play some stuff in, just because you get a different thing. As I said yesterday, you get a different kind of interaction with the music. But certainly with drums, if you are programming drums with a mouse, just get some kind of MIDI pad and start like doing that. At first, it's going to be terrible, but there's the quantize function. You can edit the stuff, but you like, I mean, it's a lower bar, if you like. So I tend to play in my drums as much as possible, just because it's just a bit more fun, I think, for me anyway. That's not to say that you can't program drums by, and it's not to say also that I don't ever do that. I do sometimes, but usually I'm playing it in. Samuel's saying the challenge is the amount of work potentially generated. Now that's an interesting framing of the problem, and I think maybe that's a kind of slightly light-hearted problem. So when you think about it, let me show you actually. Let me show you my automatic music machine. Okay, so this is it in Trello. Okay, so here's the splurges that I've been doing. So you can here see the ones that I did yesterday. No, here's the one I did yesterday, and here's the ones I did the day before. Yeah, so they're going into here, and this is my sketchbook. So these are all of the track, and basically this is the album that I released. Yeah, and here's the stuff that's in progress at the moment. Okay, and I'll be honest with you, over the last few weeks with the crisis and all of the people that I've been talking to and helping and reaching out to, and you know, it's just absolute shocker out there for so many people. Anyway, I've not managed to do much of this. But anyway, so here's the sketchbook. Okay, so here's all of the ideas I've generated in the last 18 months. Each one of these is another idea. Okay. And it goes on and on and on and on and on. Here's scrolling for a good reason. Scrolling. It's funny, you know, other people you go to, well, used to, before when you were allowed onto into buses and things. You go to a bus queue, yeah, and normal people are scrolling on their phone because they're looking at Facebook or Instagram. Oh, I am in the matrix. Oh. I am scrolling on my phone because I'm going through my sketchbook. Anyway, so am I viewing that as the amount of work potentially generated. Oh God, if I viewed it as that, I'd be like, oh no, I need to stop splurging immediately. Oh no, this is terrible. What am I going to do? I've got so much work I've generated for myself. Right. I don't see it like that at all. I'm like, oh great, look at all of the ideas I could potentially happen upon at some point, which would be something that could be like I could be excited about and play with in the future. Can you see how different a view that is? I am never gonna work, I mean, let alone finish, I'm never even gonna get to work on the majority of these ideas. I mean, there must be, I don't know, around 1,000 or something in there, I think. Yeah, so I'm never gonna get to the point where I'm working, I'm even able to work on all those ideas. I'm probably at some point never gonna get to the point where I'm even gonna hear half of those ideas again, or even the majority again. At some point, as I carry on splurging, there are going to be 5,000 ideas. There are going to be 10,000 ideas. Am I viewing that as work potentially generated? No. This is the difference between what most people do and using quantity to generate quality. Okay. None of these ideas, even the ones that I do one day and never listen to again, well, I will listen to them once, obviously, in order to process them and know what to do, you know, what labels to put on them and things like that, what to do with them. Okay, I will listen to them at once, but even the ones I never listen to again, they are not wasted. They're not wasted time. They're not wasted ideas. I mean, can you think why that would be? Why wouldn't they be wasted? Even if I never even listen to them again, bar the first listening. While you have a think about that, I'm going to put another part in, okay? And I do want some people to try and contribute an answer, right? Why might that not be a waste of time? This waste of time thing is a real obstacle that people have in their heads. Ah, great. Gerald, that's a good start. They were good practice. Yeah. Ah, brilliant, Laurie. They generate more ideas. That's right. Where do ideas come from? They just come from like nothing. They feel like they do. Yeah, they just go boop. But every single idea you've ever had comes from another idea or a bunch of other ideas. Yeah. So, and the other can actually before I say any of the other reason, can anyone think of another reason? Developing your skill set, brilliant, Laurie. Richard, they're part of the learning process. Great, absolutely, Blair, because you're refining your ability to not judge what you're making. Yes, you're developing your awareness of what you're doing in the moment. Yep, as well. Lucas, you need lots of rolls of the dice. It's good to see that people have been watching my videos, taking it in, taking notes. You need lots of rolls of the dice. Great, Phil, brilliant. I actually do something rather than nothing. Fantastic. Yet the fact that you splurge something is keeping you in the practice of making music, which is where success comes from, right? Great, you can get samples out of them. Yeah, so you can use like raw material in different ways. Rich keeps the momentum going. Samuel, finding your style. Yeah, I mean, one of the things, you know, if you want a unique voice, one of the things that you have to do is try lots of things that don't work. You got to have a much more experimental approach to what you're doing. Otherwise, if every tune has to be the best thing ever, that is a fear-creating mechanism, which then means that what do you do? What do you do when you're scared? What do you do when you're scared? Like, how do you feel when you're scared, and what do you tend to do? Anyway, I'm going to keep doing this, otherwise I'm never going to do anything, right? So to remember, this is in B. Great. Yep. When you're scared, you freeze. Anything else? What else happens? Oh, G. There we go. G major. Right, there we go. Let's cut that last bit out. Okay, fear. Fear. Ah, run away. So, fear, anxiety, creating that expectation of it having to be brilliant. This has to be the thing, right? Creates fear because then you're tight. Yeah. So, people have said, people have said, you wonderful people have said. Rich said freeze. Yvette said stop breathing. Absolutely. Robert, run away. Gerald, paralyzed. Louis, obsess. Bart, nothing. Lucas, very little. Alex, fight or flight. Audio diggers, panic. Don't think straight. Yvette, your mind races. Hi, Shy. Good to see you. Phil, wild thoughts. So, yeah, what happens when you get scared is you go into a kind of state where, well, for one thing, your mind turns inward, right? So instead of being expansive and open, it goes like that. And it stops seeing the possibilities, yeah? Because you're zeroed in on the thing that's going to save you. Yeah, you've probably noticed in this crisis, when you're feeling anxious, often your urge is to protect, yeah, to turn inward, like this, like that, and that's absolutely, that's human. I felt it too. That was my initial urge. It's like, right, lock all the doors. Beyond the self-isolation stuff. How are we going to get through this? Not you over there, but how are we going to get through this, right? That narrowing effect, yeah. When you're thinking about something like actually finding your voice, creating a style, it's going to cause you to find safety and comfort. Now, what is more safe, more comfort, more comfortable, and more certain? Again, remember, fear, it's about uncertainty of the future, yeah. What is more safe and more comfortable than something that already exists, something that you already know works? In other words, something that somebody else has already done. Yeah. Oh, there's this artist here. They're doing really well. I really like that music. I want to sound like them. Yeah. So it causes you, in effect, to create safety in your music. Now, if you want to develop your own sound, your own thing, if you want to kind of discover what that is, then it's the opposite. Yeah, it's not that you don't take inspiration from other people. Of course we do. That's part of it, right? But we've got to have periods of time and have the opportunity to experiment, to widen our perspective, yeah, and allow ourselves to be wrong, because you can't think your way into your own music. You've got to create your way into it. And what that means in relation to actually discovering what your sound is being okay with making lots of mistakes. Being okay with your music being, or even a majority of the music that you make being rubbish. When I say that you make, I'm including the ideas and the splurges here. Yeah, you've got to be okay. In fact, here's a good video. Don't do it now. But Google Adam Grant TED Talk. I think that he's done a few, but it's The Surprising Habits of Original Thinkers. Okay, watch that TED Talk. Okay, where he talks about exactly this. Okay, and he just, he's not just talking about musicians. He's talking about all kinds of different people, like inventors and things. And he's a psychologist, one of those famous psychologist people. And essentially you need to, like, the people who make the best music are willing to make the most worst music, right? So that is why, I can't remember the reason. Why are we talking about this? I've forgotten. What was the reason? Oh yeah, that was right. It came from Samuel saying, all the work I've generated. Anyway, it doesn't matter. So that is why it's absolutely essential to kind of, that was it. Because why is it that all of those bad ideas, or maybe the ideas I choose not to work on, or the ideas I'm not heard about, are not a waste of time? Yeah, because they are what create, in terms of a unique style. Yeah, they are actually part of the creation of the unique style, even if I've never used them again. Yeah, this is pointing to another mistake, if you like, that people make, which is they view the result, each individual result, as the whole point. And it kind of is, but it's unhelpful to be over-focused on the result, right? Where does great music come from? It comes from the process. And part of that process is in making lots of results that don't work. Right, that is part of the process, and that is why this kind of splurge practice is so, one of the reasons it's so powerful and so important, I believe. I know, in fact. So, Jake, hello, Jake's finally made it. Big hand for Jake. Yay! Well done, mate. Hello, Dry. Hang on, I so missed some. Hello, Maurice. Okay, so here's a kind of administration question. Blair's asking, should I name my splurges rather than just giving them a number? And I will answer that question in a second after I've done this. I think what I'm going to try and do is answer a question and then do a little bit, just to keep the momentum going. Also, folks, I've got some really, exciting to me anyway. Maybe they will be exciting to you, but exciting ideas about, after the Splurge Challenge, how I'm going to continue these live streams and some of the things I'm going to do that's going to make it even more kind of interactive. Because I think this is the real, power of live streaming, is the interaction. And I think I have some cool ideas about how to do that. So, when this Splurge Challenge is done, and I'm supposedly no longer live streaming splurges, I will, my plan anyway, is to be continuing. So anyway, bin men are here. I don't know if you can hear that. So, naming splurges. it kind of swings in roundabouts, and it depends on your preference. I have one guy in my mastermind who I'm helping. He also came to my live event here in Sydney. Came from Croatia. Wonderful guy, and he's been in my mastermind for years now. But anyway, so I know him really well. Talk to him for every 2 weeks and for a while. And he's, you know, at the moment we're kind of really focused on the music side, so the quality of his music side, on actually kind of, it's like kind of compositionally and things like that. So we're talking about that a lot. And so when we're talking, so we're, you know, talking about individual tunes he's writing, and at the moment, like you know, I was like, so 975. So let's talk about 975, yeah? And that's how he prefers to do it, because then there's sort of no association that he has with the ideas, yeah? So there is a benefit to just and you kind of forget about them quicker that way, yeah? So if it's called 975, it's going to be harder to remember what that is than if it was called, you know, purple elephant with pink spots, yeah? I prefer personally to name them, but I prefer to name them. I prefer to, well, I don't prefer. I recommend that you don't name them with a name which has a value judgment or quality judgment. So don't name it "This sucks," right? Or "I'm embarrassed I made this," or something. So I name them with whatever just pops into my head. And the reason I do that is that I find it that actually, because I'm making so many ideas anyway, I do forget what they are. But then in the future, it's actually kind of a helpful remembering process, because often one of the benefits of having like the automatic music machine and the sketchbook is that you start connecting old ideas. And here's another purpose, another way, another reason that those ideas aren't wasted, because often just something will pop into your head and you're like, there was that thing I did, that would be the ideal, I don't know, beat for this. And often if you have named it something like, what have I named these things here, you know, mistakes are your best coach, or leave your mistakes behind. Oh, there you go. Obviously I named these FCS for some reason. I can't remember what that was for. What was it? Anyway, so I have done, you know, there I have done that, but here you'll see most of them are named something. The Takeoff, Trello Thor, Smaunch, Extreme Pantaloons, Quite Fast. So I tend to name them just for that reason, but it is a preference thing. There is actually a benefit to just calling the numbers and dates. Okay. So okay, so Bart's asking about what about the audio recording you just made, Mike? This one. Do you use that if you decide you want to release, or you just remember the preset? Well, first thing to say is this doesn't have any presets. It's 100% analog, so you can't save presets. The only thing I can do is take a picture of it, but even then it's very hard to get it exactly right, because you know, there's no notches, yeah? So you know, usually I would just use this, or I would just not, you know, if I've decided there's something that isn't working about this, I would just do a different one. I try in every way as much as I can not to be too attached to anything in the music. And I think, oh my god, it's got to sound exactly the same as this, and if it doesn't, then nothing is ever going to be as good. Yeah. So a really good example of this, which I'm sure everybody has faced, is when you lose, you know, some saving nightmare happens, or your hard drive goes down or something, and you've lost, you know, a tune. instead of going, oh no, I have to get it exactly back as the way it was before, I'm like, okay, so this is an opportunity to kind of use it as a starting point and just find something else which is likely to be better. And just that kind of different mental frame actually usually ends up meaning it is better, and or there's something else about it that's good. So I tend not to be too attached to recordings of things, and you know, having something like this where you can't save presets is actually really helpful for that. Right, let's go back here. Okay, all of that stuff goes away. Let's go over here. Yes. Maurice is having a hard time not to edit. So Maurice, what is the reason you're having a hard time not to edit? Right, so just think about that right now and type in the comments, why is it that you're having a hard time not to edit? I'm going to change this actually. I think I'm going to try. Ooh. So Blair's saying if I like that DFAM, I'd probably like the noise OCOS. Yeah, I've heard about those. With gear, one of the things that I'm doing and thinking about is, we're not thinking about that. I'm actually focused on like keeping the setup that I use, and by setup I'm including in that the instruments, not only the instruments I'm using here, yeah, but also the sounds that I'm using. Yeah, so in splurging I will often just try different sounds, yeah, but for instance here, this sound here, yeah, I've got that with 5 stars, yeah, which basically means it's kind of a sound I will come back to multiple times, yeah. And so with the DFAM, and to a slightly lesser extent the Mother, I'm not I mean, I don't exactly know what the thing that you've mentioned does, but I've got something that fulfills this function in my setup at the moment, yeah. And for the foreseeable future, I'm not looking for anything else that fulfills that function. Does that make sense? So also, when I find particular types of pad sounds or string sounds, which are an important part of the sound I'm going for, I go back to those over and over again. And I may well slightly edit them later on in the process after splurging. I may well kind of change them in some kind of sound design. I might do something different with them. But I'm limiting the thing. It's like once I've found something, I'm there, right? And that's it. Yeah, I'm not looking for something else that does that. Not that I'm saying it does, and maybe it does something different. But that's just a way I'm looking at it. I'm constantly. I mean, that doesn't mean that it's all static. So, you know, this is a kind of developing process, but once I've landed on something, I'm looking to master that bit of kit more than I am try lots of other things which are along the same lines, if you like. And yes, that does, in a sense, limit what you can do, but that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for me to be limited, because that's what creates the creativity. So Maurice, to get into the right vibe, to get creative, I'll get to that. I like my beats to sound a certain way. When it's all just too clean, I don't get the ideas. Right. The first thing to say is this is a belief. To get into the right vibe, to get creative, I like my beats to sound a certain way. Yeah. If I was coaching you, I would first of all ask you to question that, because that right there, that belief is holding you back, and it's not, I mean, it may well be your experience so far, but it does not have to be true. Okay? You don't have to be in a vibe to get creative. Yeah, you don't have to be inspired to get creative. Somebody said, and I'm not saying this of you, Maurice, but somebody, I think, very kind of more wise than me, once said, inspiration is for amateurs. Okay? And I'm not saying that you're an amateur by any stretch of the imagination, Maurice, but you don't need to be in a vibe to be creative. If you can actually practice and develop your ability to be creative under almost any circumstances, and obviously there are certain circumstances, you know, if like there are, I don't know, bombs falling all around you, that would be pretty hard to be creative. But you know, in this sense, to just be creative almost no matter what, without vibe, without the kind of need to be inspired. Can you just think if that was possible? I'm not saying you don't need to believe this, but I just want you to pretend it's possible in your head. Yeah. Can you see how much easier that would be, Maurice? Can you see how much more music you would make? Can you see how much more progress you would make? Okay. And all I can say is that I've worked with hundreds and hundreds, thousands probably now, of music producers directly. Actually, probably not thousands directly. It's more like getting, you know, in the hundreds area. Yeah. And not a single one of them who's come to me with that belief has left or gone on to maintain that belief. In order to get into the vibe, you know, I have to do this. If I don't, then the ideas don't come. Your mind, you know, where does that belief come from? It comes from your mind. And your mind is also where the ideas come from. So if you believe that, you are literally stopping yourself from getting the ideas unless these preconditions are met. And I can promise you, it doesn't have to be like that. Okay? It's like, it really doesn't. Creativity is what you need to use when you're not inspired. How about that for a different frame? So I've gone back to that sound. Oh, let's just use that sound. What the heck? So, for instance, Maurice, in here, there are a few things where there are mistakes, yeah, and some weird timing errors, some bits where I played probably a slightly unexpected chord, you know, and, you know, some bits where these two parts are not jiving so well, yeah. At this stage, I'm not even editing them, okay. And you know, the more I practice splurge. So I'm gonna add a diva in again, as usual. So the more I'm splurging, the less I'm editing at this stage. Yeah, it's almost like I'm just leaving more and more mistakes. I went into this in great depth yesterday, actually, so I won't go into that again. But yeah, just ideas will come if you believe they're going to come, or if you allow yourself to believe that they can come at any point. Okay. I'm just going to check actually when is my. Okay, I'm good. Yeah, I just wanted to check to see if yeah, when my meeting is. Right, it's okay. So. Yeah, that idea that we need to be in a particular mood or a particular state, or we need to feel this or that or the other. It's such a massive like break on our. In fact, I'm gonna have that repeated. Actually, no, what I'm gonna do is this. Massive break on. Oh. Come on, Michael. You know, it's the same as actually I'm working with another masterminder who is currently in the desert. You know, out of town, living in the desert. So he's not in his studio. And at the moment, what we're working on is breaking down that belief that he needs this, that, or other equipment to be creative. You know, and one of the things I kind of even said to him, in fact, I'm going to leave that. I'm just going to leave that splurge there. One of the things I said to him was, you know, it could be said that your need to, like your equipment, you know, the brilliant setup that you've kind of crafted, if you like, is almost like a crutch. It's like a psychological crutch. And actually, this is an opportunity while you're out, you know, away from it, to actually kind of throw away the crutch and be able to be creative on anything, in any, you know, circumstances. I mean, isn't it true? Wouldn't it be true to say that the greatest musician or the greatest music producer or the greatest composer, whatever you want to call it, the greatest songwriter, would be able to make a brilliant piece of music with a dustbin lid? I think so. I mean, isn't that an indication that you are amongst the best, if you were able to do that? Well, if that is true, which I don't think anyone would disagree with that, then, because it would be an indication of how great you were, then we kind of need to allow ourselves to be good with any tools, it's not just about tools, of course, any tools, any mood, any vibe, just, you know, do it. So, there we go, just do it. G, 120, okay. So just out of interest, where are people, like how many days what day are you on of the Splurge Challenge? Just type in the comments. Okay, so that's bouncing out. And do I have time to do one more? I think I do. I'm just going to wait. Okay, so Bart's on day 2, or maybe coming into day 3. Anyone else? What day are you on? Mikael's on day 4, Sammy's on day 3. Oh, Bart's on day 4. Alex, day 4. Infotoxin day 3. Daniel, day 4. Day 4. Okay, so most people are around where I am. Cool. Mike, day 4. Borglin. Right, let's have a look. There was a question. I'm looking at a question. Okay, here we go. Phil and Pete are asking, taking the splurge further from draft. Okay. Discover. Okay, yeah. So further from discover is pretty tough for me. And Pete, same answer. Splurging is easy and fun for me. The labour is in taking it forward and turning it into a song. Okay. So yeah, like one of the reasons, obviously, that I get you to start interacting with your creative process in this kind of freer, more with a lighter touch, with a less tight thing. One of the reasons that I do that for the start of the process is obviously because it's a lot easier to do at the start of the process, because as we talked about before, the fear of judgment is a long way away. Yeah, and particularly as I'm telling you, it's probably the majority of things that you're never actually going to work on again, and that's fine. Yeah. So it's easier because again, this tightness is. I mean, you don't have to be tight because there's no what's the word? There's no downside. Yeah, and you can see that. Yeah, you can understand that. But as you get through the creative process, yeah, then you start to, the kind of fear of social judgment starts looming greater. Yeah, and as I've said many times, fear of social judgment to our caveman brains, shall we call it, is similar to the fear of death. Yeah, because when we lived in tribes, if we were rejected by the tribe, socially judged in a negative way, yeah, then we literally would have died. Okay, so that, while fear isn't real, exactly, the feeling of fear, we do feel it. Okay, so the Ash, hello. So I'm not in any way downplaying the challenge of moving things forward. The thing is, okay, so here's a simple kind of insight, and I'm not sure if you've done the leap or if you know the automatic music machine, so apologies if you have, but if you haven't, one thing to understand is that actually in terms of the automatic music machine, you are actually getting to done more music than you will release. Okay, so I don't actually know yet. Actually, I do know these ones are all going to be released, right? But the music, so here, this music here, I don't know if I'm actually going to release this. Yeah, so I'm actually finishing more music than I decide to release. Okay, so that again will reduce the fear and the tightness that comes. Okay, the other thing to understand is that that you want to know what you are doing in the creative process, okay, at any given point. So obviously this is splurging, yeah, this is called discover, this is called draft, and this is called done. Yeah, so really the kind of experience that you're having could theoretically come in between preparing something from done to release. But honestly, in the context of the automatic music machine, it kind of doesn't, because it's much more procedural than that by that point. Okay, so if we look at what the different stages of the creative process are, and by the way, in this splurge challenge, be splurging, please, and don't think about this too much when you're splurging. Yeah, if you've got more time, but while you're splurging, don't be thinking about this. Yeah. But if you've got more time in your day and you want to like work on music kind of further on, that's absolutely fine. But just while you're splurging, don't think about this. But essentially, when something comes out of splurge and goes into discover, what that means is that it's something that you want to work on. It's got something to it, but you don't know what it is. You don't know how it is a piece of music. It's an idea of some kind. Yeah. Sometimes things can go straight from splurge into draft. Sometimes they can go straight into done. That's happened to me a few times. But in essence, what you are doing in discover is you're actually figuring out what it is. Okay. And what that means really is that it's like every piece of music has a thing. Yeah. And kind of the best articulation of what the thing is it's the thing that people, when it goes away, they want to come back the most. Okay. Now I've had all sorts of articulations of what the thing is before, but that's the closest to it. Okay. The thing that people are expecting the most. Okay. And you need to identify what that thing is in Discover. The other thing that you need to identify in your Discover sessions is what is the payoff. Okay. So every piece of music wants to have, if the thing is kind of like the purpose in any given moment. Yeah. Okay. So this is the main thing. So in a song, for instance, the thing is usually the chorus. Okay. If that's the kind of the thing on the x-axis, if you like, yeah, on the y, there also needs to be a purpose to the piece of music on the y-axis in time. In other words, there needs to be some kind of payoff. So in a song, usually, not always, usually the payoff is the last chorus. Yeah, when it kind of, yeah, in a, sort of EDM type track, usually the payoff is the bit where the rhythm comes crashing in after the break. Yeah. And what happens is, usually, I mean, there are always exceptions to every rule, but usually what happens at the payoff is the thing comes back in. Okay. So in Discover, what you're looking to do is discover what the thing is and what the payoff is. Okay. In most cases. Yeah. So once you know those things, what that you will usually do is it will suggest some kind of overarching structure to the track, some kind of overarching, well, this is how it goes, because you've got the thing and you've got where it's going. You're like, okay, well, I know how this can work. And then in draft, what you're basically doing is drafting that out. Yeah, you're making a draft. So it's not already a draft. Yeah, you're making a draft. Yeah. And once you've made that draft, it goes into done. Yeah. And when it's in done, then you decide what you want to release. Okay. So if you think about the creative process in that modular way, that will, because again, with a lot of this music, it goes back, it goes forwards. It doesn't always go left to right, and that's absolutely fine. That's part of it. Okay. So just think about removing that pressure, and you don't need to get it right. Okay. Stephen is asking, should we limit ourselves to one track a day? Goodness, no, absolutely not. Keep going. No, I sometimes do 100 splurge challenge, and the last time I did it in 9 days. So that was over 11 in one day. Okay, so let's do a quick final splurge before my meeting, just to finish this off. I'm going to go really fast, and let's just do a example of me going super fast. Okay. So I wouldn't usually go for a noise like that, but I'm going to. because I'm going super fast. Right. Okay. I'm just going to quantize that just to be quick. So I'm doing a bit of editing here, as you will notice. Don't worry about it. Again, you will notice that even though my strengths was a particular type of sound in Omnisphere, at this point, that was the starting point, and I've changed to a different sound, and I'm not too worried about that. Okay, so. What's going on? Hello, hello, hello. Oh, I know what. There we go. Should work out. Just turn that down a bit. Start it from the beginning. Right. So now you're getting me doing things fast. This is what I would usually do if I'm on my own, except I probably wouldn't be talking to myself. Honest gov. That's not something I do ever. Yeah, you can ask about anything, Samuel. You can even ask me what I had for dinner last night if you want. I don't mind. Yeah, sorry, the software I'm using is Trello for the automatic music machine tracking. Yeah, I use it for all kinds of things. Trello. Okay. So there we go. Don't know what my child is doing upstairs. Playing with some kind of... Oh, I'm just going to go for the piano. A thing on the wooden floor up there. So we're getting a little bit of an accompaniment from Charlie, who is my 7-year-old. What did I have for dinner last night? We had comfort food last night, I'm afraid. We had sausages and mash. Alright, so here's an example of me, like, so where, what idea what I'm going to play in this situation, or what am I going for? And the most obvious thing to do at this stage, and don't think about this too much, just let it happen, but I just want to give you a bit of musical thing. So I've just played this thing in here. Yeah. Now, that's a motif. So if I want to make something that immediately works, yeah, that's a really good starting point to think about. Yeah. So, so Samuel said, can I ask about the SSL console plugin thing? You can ask about it, but I want you to give me a question other than, can I ask about it? That's not I mean, it is a question, but what is your question about it? So, yeah, so, SWDX, when do you know your tracks are ready for distribution? Should one just start uploading songs? What, should is such a difficult word. It depends what you're trying to do. And it depends, really. It depends where you're at. It depends on what your goal is with releasing the songs. Because the goal of somebody who is simply wanting to get started and wanting to kind of get moving would be different from, say, I don't know, Claude Von Stroke, one of my clients. Yeah. I mean, he probably doesn't want to just put everything up on SoundCloud. But if you're kind of just getting started and you just want to get over the kind of fear humps of getting stuff out there, maybe that is the right thing to do for you. But it just depends, really. I can't say there isn't a should. Yeah, there's for you. Okay. So Samuel says, what is it? Okay. So what it is the console one. All right, let me just get it up here. And can you say, let me see if I can, without causing a nightmare. All right, so there's this bit of hardware there. Yeah, and I can press this button here. And what you do is you put the plugin, actually I'll go to you put the console one plugin on all of your tracks. Yeah, like that. And basically you can go like this, and then you can, it's like having a mixing desk. Right, so all it has, I mean, it's like so this is the SSL desk, and that's an SSL channel strip. Yeah, so it's got the input, high cut, low cut, shape, EQ, sorry, I've got it set to auto off, and compressor. Yeah, so this is essentially a model. I don't know how good it is because I've never used a real SSL myself personally. But anyway, this is supposedly a model of an SSL 4000 desk. And there are other ones as well. So, and it's not so much the analog modeling that I like. It's the actual, when it gets to the, I mean, you won't see me doing much of this, but when it gets to the kind of later stages where I'm doing more kind of mixing, I just find the hands-on hardwareiness of it, being able to twist it means that I'm not mixing with my eyes so much. I'm mixing with my ears. Yeah. So let me show. Yeah. So there are different ones anyway. So a different model. So that's what that is. So okay. So you can hear there, I was talking about the. So when I'm thinking about what to play in this, well, I'm not thinking about I don't really think about this, but the first place I will probably go is something that echoes that in some way. Doesn't even need to be the same notes. I really like that. So I'm going to give that a go. Alright. So what I might do is put something else in first. So on the note of gear, right? So one of the great things about stopping making music for 8 years and focusing on coaching other people is that I've had the benefit of hindsight in a massive way, and it's allowed me to kind of view maybe where I went wrong in the past. And in relation to gear, I have a very specific way of, people who have been watching me for a while, who have seen lots of my videos, there was a period of time when it may have seemed like all I was doing was buying gear, but they will have also noticed that now it's staying the same, largely. In fact, I don't think I've bought anything for a few months at all. That's because there were certain things that I knew I needed to get done. So the first thing I bought after my MIDI piano, full-sized, weighted grand, was a really decent set of speakers. Okay, because the first album I made, I mixed on those. The tiny little Genelecs. I didn't even mix it myself in the end, but it was just impossible to hear, anything beyond sort of the low mid. Yeah. So that was the first thing, and I needed them because I knew it was going to save me a lot of time. Yeah, saving time is absolutely essential. Then I got this, and I wish I actually hadn't have got this. This is a Prophet Rev 2. I got this because I wanted a analog keyboard I could play, and I actually ended up not getting along so well with that. So that's kind of something that I wish I hadn't got. The reason I got this was because my friend was selling it, and it was an opportunity because it's a rare, well, I don't know how rare, but it's a pretty rare synth. It's a Roland SH7, and I wanted something that didn't have presets and that was, it was just very tactile, and I could look at it. Yeah. And in the meantime, I was actually reducing, even though you can look here and see there's like loads and loads of plugins. I hardly use any of them. Yeah. You'll see me going to Diva, Omnisphere, and later on you'll see me going to the Roland Cloud, what are they? the 909 and the 808 all the time. Yeah, but that's basically it. Piano is always there. Yeah, and this I got because I wanted something that was kind of generative in a way and crazy, and that sounded really good. It kind of was inspiring to me, and I did a lot of looking around for things like it, and I was like, okay, that's the one. And when people were going, oh, it only has 8 steps and it's really, I was like, oh, this is exactly the kind of thing I want. You know, it's going to force me. Yeah, and so that was for a very specific reason as well. It was kind of filling a hole that I was perceiving in my setup. And the reason I got this, the console one, is because it was the mixing process for me. When I say mixing, I do actually have somebody do the final mix. I'm just mixing it to the point of getting it to the final mix. Yeah, so it's almost like I'm doing this is how I want it to sound. You do all of the sorting out of the, yeah, right. But so I was finding in that process that it was going really slow because I was starting to. It was like all of the mousing that I was doing, it was meaning I was mixing with my eyes a lot, and your eyes aren't very good at hearing. So I wanted something that I could quickly use, and also because, I mean, you can use all other plugins in it, but because it's got half decent sort of channel strip in there already, yeah, it's like it just simplifies things. So this again is a time saver, and a time saver, and it kind of increases like the quality of what I'm doing, because I haven't got 5,000 different things to choose from. And it's not that I only use this channel strip or anything like that. It's just it gives me a kind of fast and, you know, quality way of making something that I can be confident is decent. Yeah. So each thing that I've bought, apart from this one, which I feel like was a mistake, I am actually going to go and have another go at it. Apart from this one, but everything else has been. I mean, I did actually buy it for a specific intention. I just didn't get on with it for some reason. I don't know why. But yeah, everything else that I've bought is. Oh, and by the way, this I've actually bought it to go with that. Yeah, and I haven't yet got into that, but that's for a specific reason as well. So literally everything that I've bought has been for a specific reason that I've kind of thought about beforehand. To kind of, it's almost like I do think about it as assembling your band, if you like. So anyway, I need to hurry up. What was it I was doing? Right. So let's just put this part in here. That's what I'm going to do. Okay. I have 4 minutes before my meeting. Will he make it? What do you reckon? Oh, look at that. What an absolutely appalling player. All right. Cut that out there. And then that'll do. Okay, so there again was an example of a splurge where I'm like, meh, meh. But you know, let's not prejudge, because even if this one turns out not to move forward, as we spoke about earlier on in this very live stream, it is not a waste. Nothing. I think I've already called something not a waste. Nothing is wasted. Not a waste. C98. Arguably, that is a judgment-like name, but hey. So that is it for today. I will be back tomorrow. Keep splurging. It sounds like people are starting to kind of get the splurge. See if you can up the rate over the next day before we meet again tomorrow. Okay, see if you can double the number of splurges that you've done. Okay, and yeah, I will see you this time. Well, not this time tomorrow. An hour and a half earlier than this tomorrow. So have a great one. Stay safe. Stay healthy. Stay sanitized. And I will see you very soon. Take care.